Okay, everybody, we're live. So, good morning, everyone. Welcome to VMN Business Talk. Today, we are diving into a topic that every business owner needs to understand a little deeper, and that is banking. And not just banking, it's holistic banking. If you'd like to catch up on past episodes covering business marketing and leadership, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible, and YouTube. We truly appreciate your follows, likes, and comments. They help us bring even more valuable conversations your way. My name is Diana Spinka. I'm the producer of the show. And as always, I'm here with our host, networking and marketing expert, Victor Nichols. Good morning, Victor.
Good morning. We're going to have a good talk today.
And we're excited to welcome today's guest, Kristen Duncan, Vice President of BCB Bank. Chris, thank you so much for being here with us today. Let's start at the beginning. Tell us, how did you get into banking?
Definitely. I got into banking right after college. I started off as a personal banker. And actually, before that, my mother was in banking. And I remember as a teenager, I would go to some of the events and some of the town fairs and just see how she interacted with the community and how business owners would come up and talk to her. And I thought to myself, this is pretty cool. This is the beginning for me of seeing what community tends to look like. And I started as a personal banker right after college, was promoted in 6 months to store supervisor with the goal of becoming a branch manager at the time. And then I started to think a little bit of the long haul, and I started getting into business banking, working with entrepreneurs, working with small business owners. And I really found my passion in helping them reach their full potential.
You mentioned one thing when you were doing that description is that community bank.
Yes.
Okay. Which is apples and oranges.
Right.
As far as banking is concerned with the big boys that everybody knows, Chase and Ocovias and people like that.
Right.
And I don't think, I know I didn't know the benefits of being engaged with a community bank. So I think that this conversation is going to be very helpful to a lot of people, to a lot of small businesses and larger businesses too, because larger businesses use community banks. On why that's a more of a unique relationship than it is with a Chase or one of the big boys.
Definitely.
You make a very big emphasis on community. Is it something that comes from your personal experience in life, or why is that?
I think it comes from a combination of both. It's one of those things that in order to achieve success, in order to grow, you need support. It reminds me of a quote that always stuck with me earlier on in my career. And, a wise man once said, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. That's just a testament to how much we need each other and how much community support is important.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And how did you
philosophy? That's a great move.
Yeah.
Yeah. How your bank is involved in community? Because we read a lot of things on your social media, but I would like to hear it from you.
Yeah, definitely. One of the ways that we're involved in community is we support the community, and we don't just support financially, we support by showing up, right? So it could be something as simple as hosting a community event in one of our branches where we can spotlight a business, where we can introduce them to a new audience. We can partner with a local chamber to bring in other community supporters and other influencers to not only spotlight that business, but to get people connected. It's not just about selling, it's about support. It's about creating an ecosystem of other people who are in your industry who can help you along the way.
Nice. So if I'm understanding correctly, if I'm a client at BC Bank and I, let's say, sell something, Vic, what am I selling? I don't know.
Let's say you're a hairdresser.
Yeah.
I'm a hairdresser, yeah. And I have, I'm opening a new salon, right? So I can come to you and I can say, Chris, I'm doing this, new thing, and I want help from you. Could you please reach out to your people to bring some audience to the opening?
Definitely.
Right?
Absolutely. So we're going to invite, our customers, our clients. We're going to partner with other organizations. We're going to say, hey, D, invite who you know as well. And we're going to make this a community event where you're spotlighted so you feel that support. And actually, as a small business owner, you really feel that support when you have a bank like BCB supporting you and standing behind you.
Yeah.
Does it cost any extra?
No, no. These are events that we do for community, because for us, it's not about selling anything. It's about supporting you, because we know that if you grow, we can grow too. And not only that, you start to remember, hey, it was BCB that started with me when I wasn't even profitable, right? When I made 25,000 in my first year, then I grew with them when I did 100,000, and then ultimately I did 1 million. They were with me every step of the way. They weren't just coming in like the big banks and saying, hey, D, call me when you're doing 1 million in revenue, then we can talk. It's a different touch. It's a different feel.
Right. Or more.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
right.
So me as a big business owner, I don't have to make a certain amount of money to have your support.
Correct. Exactly. And that's one of the trends with community banks. They tend to be more feasible when it comes to eliminating miscellaneous fees, whether it's cash management services or the minimum deposit requirement tends to be a lot lower at community banks, because the goal is to support you and help you grow. It's not to nickel and dime you and hit you with fees and charge you. It's to get behind you and support you.
So it's really more about the incubation, not the destination.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. You got it.
Because you want to be there along the way.
Right.
Yeah, I want to help you get to your destination, but
Right.
that's not necessarily the reason for engagement.
Exactly.
Right? Okay. Because that to me, as a business owner who's been in business for 40 some odd years, believe me, the first bank I was with did not show me that kind of love.
Right.
They're like, yeah, come back when you grow up. I mean, I'm like, what? I have to go and find another bank. I ended up going to Union,
Right.
The bank's Union Center Bank, because the other banks were like, yeah, you're bothering me, kid.
And actually, Vic, that's a great point, because that's kind of the mindset too. And I had to kind of unlearn that myself early on in my career. I work for the big banks. I come from the big boys. And the mindset was, hey, if you don't have a minimum of $250,000 or more, then, there's the door. Because the thought process is they're focusing on private clients and commercial clients and middle market clients. And the small business owners kind of get lost, at the bottom of the pile. And it wasn't until I went to a community bank where I started the mindset shift of realizing what it's all about, right? It's not about me. It's not about ego. It's about you, the entrepreneur, the small business owner, and realizing that I want what you want for your business.
And you're going to build and you're going to build that relationship for long term. When the big banks, when a big bank, somebody else comes along, okay, you're banking at Chase, and then, let's say Wachovia or somebody else comes along and they give you a better deal, or they're giving you a better rate on a CD or whatever the hell it is. You're like, well, I got to jump ship now because there's no relationship.
Exactly.
Right? There's no relationship.
Yeah.
And since we started talking about relationship, Chris, why do you think it's important to have a good relationship with your banker?
Absolutely. I think it's critical to have a great relationship with your banker, because it's in the same vein as selecting the right accountant or the right attorney for your business. Your banker is your financial partner. And the stronger that relationship is, what that means for you, that means priority service. That means quicker decision making. That means you're treated like a real person, not just an account balance. And that also means that banker can help you see red flags in your business early on versus letting those problems tend to escalate, and you don't have anyone to reach out to.
Yeah, that's so key, because sometimes you feel when you're running business, and especially when you're starting, well, even sometimes when you're further down the road, you feel like you're alone.
Yeah.
You feel like you're alone, and the last place you want to be alone is the person who's dealing with your money.
What, Vic, unfortunately, we see that time and time again. And that's one of the things that the small business owner and the CEO of a middle market company have in common. That's one of the things, is that, unfortunately, to your point, Vic, when they have questions about their banking relationship or their finances, they don't know where to go. Right. And that's why I instill in my clients, I'm your direct line. If you have questions, no matter how big or how small, call me. Use me as a resource. I rather know, that way I can help you, versus not know and you're struggling in silence. Right. I want my clients to know that you're not navigating this thing alone.
Yeah, I remember having a feeling that I didn't know what to do. It was 2020, the perfect year to start a new business,
Of
and
course.
I launched a business with a friend of mine, and we were selling bamboo toothbrushes for businesses with their printed logos.
Okay.
Um, and I remember going to, I don't, who was it? It was either a lawyer or a banker, and there was like an older guy, like 70 plus guy, and he was like asking, "So, how much do you think you'll make a year?"
Right.
And I was like, "I don't know. I just want to make the first sale. Like, I don't care if I make the first, like, just one sale. I'll be so happy."
Right.
And he was like, "Most businesses fail in the first 3 years." Like, and that's me. I was what, like 23, 24, and my partner was like a little older than me, and we were
Hmm.
like, what attitude is that? Like, we came to you, potentially will bring you business, and you has to be our advisor, like,
Right.
but you were just like turning off. Like, I don't want to do business with you like anymore.
Right. And that's the difference between, a bank and a bank partner, but it goes deeper because you just hit on the head what it means to have a holistic approach to banker, right? To
Mhm.
banking. That banker was just seeing you, they saw a number. Okay, how much can you do in the first 3 years? Will you even be in business in 3 years? Does it make sense for us to continue this conversation, right? So as a small business owner, you're actually put off and you're thrown off, to your point, D, to say, I'm coming to you for support, and this is the response that I'm getting, right?
Yeah.
And that tends to be the narrative, often far too many times. But I can tell you from experience at community banks, it's totally different because our approach, again, is not to get you when you're a million in production or plus. It's to meet you where you are. It's to ask those questions to help you along the way. To say, okay, you just started out a business. Congratulations, you took the first step. How can we help you grow?
Yeah.
Right? Let me connect you with some industry professionals. And a really good banker should have tools and resources that are not just specific to their bank. They should be able to reach out into the community and pull in a third party and say, hey, you know what? Dee just started her business. Let's have a conversation. I think she could use your help.
Hmm.
Or I think she could help you. It's about having those connections. But if that banker is not approaching it from a holistic approach, you never get to those resources.
Yeah, because
Hmm.
you're acting as that strategic connector.
Right.
And many bankers, and I've known more than a couple, a lot of them don't think that way.
Correct.
They're like, okay, what can you? It's what can you do for me as opposed to what they can do, right? It's
Exactly.
the other way around. They're like, well,
Absolutely.
what Vic, what are you going to bring me? How are you going to make, and how are you going to make this work for me? And I'm like, whoa, whoa,
Right.
whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't. The last time I checked, I thought I was the client.
Exactly. And the thing is too, Vic, and bankers are starting to realize now that without you, there's no us. Without the small business owners, without the entrepreneurs, there's no bankers, right? So I think that that's a mentality shift too that a lot of bankers are starting to adapt. Instead of leading with sales, they're leading with service.
Yeah.
Instead of Mr. Client, here's a loan that you need to take advantage of. Here's a credit card that you need to go ahead and take out. It's how can I help you? How's your day going? Right? What service can I provide? And I think that starts with approaching it from a different perspective.
Well, and I think you and I have kind of lived that just recently. I mean, we've lived
Yeah.
it for some time, but we just lived it recently.
Yep.
Yes, I've been with BCB, but I haven't done a tremendous amount of business there, and I'm going to
Right.
be doing more. But the point was not that. The point was you and I, we got together, we had lunch, we went to a couple events, we
Yep.
spent some time together and things like that. And I'm like, you know what? I said, Chris, there's somebody I think you should talk to. I think there's
Correct.
somebody you should help or could
Right.
help. Right.
Yes.
Then you were able to reach out. You're able to now make a contact. I was able to put it together, and it looks like there might be some things that can come out of that.
Right.
That helps you, and it helps me. That's
Correct.
the other thing that I think a lot of people don't understand.
Right.
That you helping someone that I know is also helpful to me.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Because
And
people think it's kind of like, well, I gave you a lead, and what's in it for me, bro? If you gave somebody a lead and they did a good job and they
right.
made you look good, that's gold bullion. You are
Exactly.
doing me a favor.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what community is all about. It's supporting your neighbors, it's supporting each other. and helping the person next to you. But like you said, it's about connecting those dots as well.
Right. Right. And playing heads up ball. That's
Yes.
one of the things that when I talk to some of the students, when I talk to them, these college kids and stuff like that, it's not just throwing stuff out there. It's giving some thought of how it's going to work and who you want to connect to whom.
Right.
Because you have to understand both sides of it. And is that going to be a relationship that's going to make sense, as opposed to, I just got to give somebody a referral or a lead or something like that. That's why some of those networking groups that push that mentality are really not effective.
Correct. Exactly. Because it's not organic. It's not natural.
Yeah.
If you're forced to introduce, someone to someone just because you have to hit a quota or a metric, it's not organic, right? Versus something that you feel in your gut to say, hey, you know what? Vic's a nice guy. I think he should talk to this person. That doesn't take any effort.
No, it doesn't. And you want to go out of your way to make sure it happens.
Right.
Right. You actually want to take that extra step or third step that it's going to take in order for that to happen, because people have different schedules or whatever, but you want to actually facilitate that meeting because you know that it's the right thing to do. And that's, I think, is, one of the things that is so amazing about so you personally, but also your bank and the philosophy of community bank.
Definitely.
So what are other benefits that people will get if they go to BCB Bank?
Definitely. So it starts with the priority service. It starts with understanding you. It starts with understanding your business. And then it starts with the conversation. And that conversation is really just an open dialogue. And that type of consistency, it's not just, we don't just talk to you when you open your account, right? And then we never talk to you again.
Right.
It's a regular, consistent check-in. For some clients, it could be semi-annual. For some clients, it could be annual, or some clients, it could be quarterly, depending on their business and what's going on in the environment and in today's financial climate. But those are great check-in points because you want to understand what your banker has to offer. But more important, your banker wants to learn what's happening in your world, what market trends are happening. Has your business, goals shifted a little bit? How can we help you? Can we pull in a third party? So you're getting that type of personalized service. And as I mentioned earlier, the fee structure is a lot more favorable to small business and entrepreneurs, right? There's certain things that we don't charge for, like we don't charge for ACH services. We have small fees for wire transfers, right? So, remote deposit capture that helps businesses scan checks from the comfort of their business versus coming into a bank, right? We love to see you, but if we can help you digitize how you get paid, then that's an option that we can help you with as well. So it's about making sure that you're uplifted, you're supported, and we help you in your specific needs. It's a tailored approach. It's not a one size fits all, take this account and go. It's about building with you specifically based on your specific needs.
You brought up something else when you were talking about, transactions and things like that.
Yep.
How are you, because I think a lot of people may think that community banks are not as sophisticated as some of the larger banks.
Yep.
How are you guys with international business, international banking, wire transfers, letters of credit, things like that?
Absolutely. And we're very equipped. And that's one of the misconceptions, I think, too, Vic, that's one of the differences between some of the larger banks and the community banks. Speaking for BCB, we don't have that intermediate bank when it comes to international wire transfers, right? So it's through us. We support businesses who, do business in other countries and even other states, right? So that's something that we're equipped to handle, and we welcome those opportunities. And I think that, too, with some of the bigger banks, they do a phenomenal job with, international services. They may even have a bank in another country, and that's great. But unless you're walking into a bank with cash, then why can't you do those things remotely? Right? We're living in a digital world now where banks are beefing up their online presence, and more importantly, they're enhancing their online capabilities, meaning you can bank from anywhere, right?
And so you guys are so I just want to emphasize, you're on that cutting edge. Just like the big boys, you're on that cutting edge to make sure, because that would be some of the things that even a bank, that even a company that's a little bit further along, right? Would say, you know what, I like the philosophy, and I like Chris, but I do a lot of international stuff, or I do a lot, I have a lot of transactions, and I got crazy payroll and blah 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 blah. Then all of a sudden it's like, I think I'm going to be more comfortable with a bigger bank, and I think that that's a massive mistake. And that's why I wanted to bring it up in this conversation, because again, as a business person, I'm not just somebody who's talking to you about banking. You know, I've had my ups and downs and pains and all of the things throughout the 40 years that I've been in business. Well, most of it was in the early years, but it is not easy. No. And if you go to your bank, and I remember when I told you before we even started this that I had banked with a smaller bank over in Union. It was Union Center Bank, which I think now is Connect One. I think Connect One bought them. And I remember when I couldn't make payroll.
Wow.
Couldn't make payroll. And I called my banker. And if this were Chase or Wachovia or any damn buddy else, they're like, look, bro, I'm sorry, I can't help it. Okay.
They're like, call the number on the back of your debit card. Call 1-800 number. They can help you.
Or like 1-800, leave me alone. Okay. But my banker, Community Bank, stepped up. He said, hey, Vic, understood. You're a good client. You're a good customer. I understand where the flow is. He looked at the account. He said, we're going to cover this for you. Don't worry about it. All your payroll is going to be taken care of, and you know just get us up to speed in the next week, because we see what your receivables are. No problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm telling you, I wouldn't have even been able to get the other bank on the phone where you help them solve the problem. Right?
And you just hit a great point too, Vic, because with community banks, that's one of the pillars, right? It's not just the personalized service; it's about the local decision making. Right, that banker was able to either pick up the phone or just handle it himself to say, Vic, you know what, we'll cover it, we'll take care of it. You know, maybe we'll put in a line of credit, or overdraft line of credit on the account.
And he did that right
there. Right.
I wasn't filling out papers. I wasn't standing on my head. I wasn't, losing my mind. None of that. And he said, then you could come in and we'll set it up for future, and we'll make sure this doesn't happen again.
Right. Exactly. And in the community banking space, that's our norm, right? Because we operate based on local decision making and quick decisions and quick turnaround times. And we see that over and over again where folks come in with a problem, we're able to address it right away. We don't need to make 6 phone calls and send 10 emails and copy the world to get a response. We're able to handle that from a central environment. And it doesn't just go that way for that scenario about payroll. That also comes with negotiating rates as well when it comes to deposit accounts, right? If you come in and say, hey, Vic, you come in and you say, Chris, I got this rate from across the street. They're offering me 4.25% on a CD or 4.5%. I can say, great, let's see the proof. Let me make a phone call and we'll match it. Right? It's that simple.
So you don't have to move. You can you can stay in the house.
Exactly.
And what you're looking for. Yeah.
And some of the bigger banks, it's almost impossible to get a rate approved because it's got to go through so many hoops. You're making 5, 6, 7 phone calls, and then the person who's making the decision, you can't even get to over the phone. You have to send an email and hope that they respond. Meanwhile, the customer's like, you know what? Just forget it. I'm going across the street.
Yeah, exactly. Because we got businesses to run. We can,
you can't wait. You can't wait till you get your business in order. We can't wait till you make a decision. I'm going.
Time is the thing. So that's exciting about that. And as we continue to build our businesses, we have to understand that it's a partnership. It's not transactional.
Exactly.
For everybody who is listening to us, you can ask your questions in a comment section, and Chris will be happy to answer. And if for everybody who is watching us later, you can comment in the comment section your question, and Chris will come back and answer those questions for you. So I want to talk a little bit about the business owners. Especially small business owners. What are the most common challenges that they bring to you, and how do you overcome those?
Definitely. I see one of the most common challenges that I see often is issues with their cash flow management, and also a lack of having a financial plan and a lack of having a strategic plan. And that's where I come in, right? And that's the beauty of what I do, is that I'm able to sit with them, I'm able to structure their finances and put together a roadmap to help them achieve sustainable growth. And I think that that's one of the beauties of meeting with your banker regularly, is that they can help you, again, identify some of those red flags or talk about what's working well and what's not working. And you can pivot and you can adjust your strategy. That way you can move forward.
Right.
So you talk about like sales, marketing, about all of those things?
Absolutely, absolutely, because it's a holistic approach. We don't care just about your account balance. We care about you, the person. We care about you, the business owner. We have those conversations, right? Like, what's your marketing plan, right? How are you advertising yourself on social media? What platforms are you on, right? Because these
Mhm.
are resources that we want to know because we want to help you grow. We might be able to pull in a third party that can help you with your social media, with your advertising or PR.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And that's a win for
And
them. It's a win for the bank. It's a
Yep,
win for everybody. Right.
exactly. Exactly.
and do you promote your clients on your social media?
Absolutely. So I definitely promote my clients on my social media. On my LinkedIn page is probably the primary site. But that's what it's about. It's about that partnership. It's about posting them on social media because that drives traffic to that client where people want to know more.
Oh wow! So it's like you get like a business mentor, financial planner, like and a marketing person in one banker. That's
Yeah,
amazing, and like a free promotion. That's big.
exactly. But again, that's the difference of a holistic approach versus just a cookie cutter, come in, let's do your transaction and go. Right. I approach things from a holistic approach, and most community bankers, they approach it from the same way because we understand that we want to know the full picture of what's going on. We just
Hmm.
don't look at you like an account balance or an account number. We look at you, the business owner, and more importantly, you, the person.
Right. Can you share an example of a partnership between BCB Bank and their local business, maybe from one of those events, and what difference it made for the business?
Definitely, and that's a great point. So when we have an event in our branches and we bring a business in and we spotlight them, we're highlighting them as a business owner. Maybe they're about to open up a brick and mortar in the neighborhood or in the area, or maybe they've been in business for 20 years. They just need a little bit more exposure or need an extra push, right? So we bring them in, we highlight them, we maybe partner with the local chamber where they can bring their members because some of these chambers have access to over 400 small businesses, some of which are in the same industry, right? So now we have co-branding event. We have a chamber who's bringing in folks. We're bringing in our customers. We're bringing in experts in that industry. And now it's not just about networking. It's about collaboration. It's about idea
Hmm.
sharing. And again, that goes back to creating that ecosystem for support.
This
That is
is
so great. I mean, one of the major Vic's like best thing that Vic does is he uh, or finds people and finds the way to collaborate, to build a strategic collaboration, strategic partnership between the businesses. And what you are talking about like ties perfectly into that approach of like strategic partnerships, but not just in between businesses, but between businesses and your bank. So it's
Yeah.
like a three-party kind of collaboration.
Absolutely, absolutely. We did one recently where we partnered with a local chamber and a business, and it was great because that business was a member of the chamber, but they weren't a client of BCB at the time. And but it had them thinking, "Wow, I'm getting this support from a bank where I'm not even a client of." Just
Mhm.
imagine, just imagine if we started a relationship. There's so much value that I'm leaving on the table by not leaning in. But things like that, we typically do those for our clients, but sometimes we'll do those events and we'll do those spotlight events in branch for non-clients because again, if we can help you and there's an opportunity, then we're going to do it, right? And the return on investment for me and for the bank is to say, hey, it gets that person thinking, wow, I don't even bank with this bank and they're supporting me. Imagine if I do.
if
Imagine what I'm
Mhm.
I wasn't quiet. Right. Right.
exactly.
Well, and that's the other thing too. And when it even comes to various services, I remember we were having breakfast, and this is a question that I asked you, and I said, do you do lines of credit? But I was looking for a revolving line of credit.
Right.
Now, I know that many of these big banks, they don't do it anymore.
Correct.
Okay. I mean, I was like, I went to my bank who I've been with for a long, long time, and I was like, oh, yeah, I want a revolving line of credit. Oh, no, Vic, but, we'll give you a loan. You have great credit. But I said, no, I don't think you're not understanding. Okay. I didn't ask you for a loan.
Right.
Okay. I know you'll give me a loan. A loan's not what I want. I said, I want
Right.
a revolving line of credit because of the way the cadence of the business is. I want to be able to expand and contract and use what I need and not pay you for a lump sum loan. Because
Exactly.
the minute you give me the loan, I got to start paying you back.
Correct.
And that's not what I'm looking for.
Right.
Okay. Now, it's more profitable to the bank
Of
to
course.
give me a loan. Okay.
Of course.
I get that. Okay. But that's not what I want to do, because you're just going to make money on something that I don't need. And
Right.
you're like,
Or you're not using it at the time.
exactly. I said, and we replenish it, it's a revolving. So, and I've obviously, there were other banks throughout my career that obviously offered those, but they get small, the list gets shorter and shorter.
Absolutely.
They're not making the kind of money they want to
Exactly.
make, not because they can't do a revolving line of credit.
Right. It's about profit. It's about profit.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I was so happy when you're like, sure, Vic, we can work something like that out.
Absolutely. And the thing is, too, again, it's about what's important to you, right? If you prefer to have a line of credit because that's better for you and your business needs, and that's what's important to you, why not support that? And when you think about it, it makes sense. Why not have a line of credit that I can use when I'm ready? Not today, not tomorrow. Maybe it's in 3 months. When a need arises, then I can tap into it and not have to use my operating funds.
A job comes in and I got to bring in people, or job comes in and I got to buy materials overnight. It's funny because I was having this conversation with somebody because we've got the World Cup coming. So I was remember that event?
Yep.
You were here for this. I was talking to somebody in the other room, and they were a small business, and they're like, yeah, but I'm trying to ramp up for this thing, and I got to buy inventory, and I can't get inventory because I got to lay the money out before I got to be it. And I'm like, whoa, man, this is exactly the kind of banking problem that you should be talking to your bank with. I said, so why don't you talk to your bank? They said, well, I bank with Chase, and I can't. I was like,
right. You're like, I'm staying out of it.
staying out. I mean, I have a good relationship with Chase, but I'm staying out of it. But we're looking for somebody like you.
Right.
We're looking for somebody like you who's going to sit down and walk them through it.
Exactly.
And really kind of show them how it can be done. And I think that, I get excited about this kind of thing because, one, I know how lost I was when I started my business and the mistakes that I made, because I didn't have that kind of guidance from my bank.
Gotcha. Yeah. And that's the difference, again, from that bank and that bank partner, right? Like if he's able to have his conversation with his banker at Chase, the banker may be able to say, hey, you know what, we can't do it. You're out of luck. Or they might be able to say, hey, we can't do it, but here's another resource. Right. And that's one of the things that separate, a banker from a really good banker, is that a really good banker has external resources. It's not just, again, specific to their bank, right? There's many times where people come to me to say, hey, Chris, can you do this? Can you do that? And I'm like, you know what? We'll take a look. Unfortunately, we can't. But you know what? Give this person a call. I think they can. Let me bring in this CDFI. Let me bring in this state level organization, or this even federal organization. How about you reach out to them, and not only just reach out to them cold? Here's a specific person to reach out to.
Right. I'll tee it up for you. Yeah,
exactly. And that's the difference. I was at an event back in the fall, and someone was one of the CDFIs were doing a presentation on credit, and they were saying, we can't tell you how important having a strong relationship with your bank is, or even the person who's referring you to us, because even that can be the difference between approval or not. Because it's the ability to tell that story, right? Like if I send a referral to a CDFI when they're looking for a term loan and I just send it over cold, they're just a name on a piece of paper. If I actually send over that referral, call the person who's making the decision and say, hey, let me tell you the story. This is how well I know this business owner. This is what they need the term loan for. That approval, that chances of approval are through the roof.
Yeah, right.
Now, because you vouch for them. Yeah.
And again,
it's
full circle. It's a win. It's a win all the way around.
Exactly.
Right.
But a lot of people too, but a lot of people are afraid to do that, Vic, too, because they think, okay, if I refer my client to a third party that's outside of my bank, I might lose that customer. They may not come back. But for me, I'm saying sometimes you have to be okay with saying, I will manage the banking relationship, but I know that there's a CDFI out there that may be better priced. If we're offering X and they're offering 5.99%, I'm going to say, do the right thing and go with them. Right? Because when you have questions about your bank, they're still going to turn you back to me anyway.
That is so key. And so many people don't understand that. It's the kind of thing, when somebody, consults with us for something, and there's times where I'm like, you know what? I would absolutely love to take your money. Like, you have no idea how much I'd love to take your money.
Right.
However, this is not really the way you should go.
Right.
Okay. Here's what you really should do, even though it might not be with me. But you know what? 9 times out of 10, they will come back to me for something else.
Of course.
Because now there's trust.
Exactly.
You could have closed me. You could have got my money. But you said that wasn't really the best thing for you to do with that money.
Right.
Because I evaluated what it is that you were actually trying to do. And there's so many, and that you're just saying that philosophy, which makes people come back. You never really lose somebody you've done the right thing for.
Exactly. If anything, you've gained, because now, like you said, you've gained their trust. Yeah. You've earned their respect. We're now
favor for somebody that just like that. And
right.
4 years later, Chris, 4 years later, I got a call from somebody I didn't know.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And said, Vic, I was talking to such and such, and he said, this guy, Vic, is the guy for you. He's going to be able to help you. He's going to be able to do what you want him to do, what you're looking for. And it was a wonderful piece of business.
Wow.
4 years later, and I never did do business with the guy who referred him.
Wow.
You see what I mean? I never did business with that guy.
Right.
I did business with the referral.
Yep. But that's
strategic thinking,
And I mean, obviously, my reason for doing it at the time was not knowing that 4 years later I was going to get a nice piece of business. I just did it at the time because I really felt it was the right thing to do.
Exactly. That was some good karma coming back to you, Vic.
Exactly. But I think that's something that we, when we're out there and we're doing our thing and we're running our businesses, and you don't find that in banks. You just don't.
No. Right.
Mm-hmm. Do you see any trends or any strategies that help businesses grow in today's economy? Like just some recent findings that you see that working for businesses?
To grow, definitely. I think that, businesses will definitely have to take a look at their flexibility and also their liquidity. That means taking a closer look at some of their expenses and seeing what things they can cut out and how they can enhance their finances. And I think it means, starting with finding the right bank, starting a relationship, and finding the right banker that works for you, because, that relationship is just like any other relationship, right? Personalities, and it has to be a right fit. But that banker can help you, strategize your business. And maybe it's also a referral to the right accountant. Maybe it's the right accountant to the right CPA or business attorney. But I think those are some of those things that can help that business grow and start going in the right direction. Or even if you're going in the right direction, it can help you enhance your business overall.
So I can come to you and we can look at my expenses together and just see how we can change that?
Absolutely. And that goes back to those quarterly or semi-annual check-ins I mentioned earlier. And that conversation, that's really what I like to call a relationship review meeting, and where it's an open dialogue where you can come to me with your concerns and I can say, okay, let's go through your expenses. Let's go through what's going on, right? I can even have a conversation with your bookkeeper or with your CFO or your controller to say, hey, how can we help you? Let's take a look at it, right? But it goes beyond that. It's a reoccurring conversation, because things in business, as we know, things are always going to come up. There's always going to be a monkey wrench. There's always going to be something
every damn day.
Right? So we got to be able to talk about those things in real time and not let things, exasperate and escalate to the point where now it's going to take so much effort to course correct that now we're losing time and taking you away from doing what you like most, which is running your business.
Yeah, you've moved it. It's crisis mode, as opposed to we could have alleviated this if we.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Can I receive money in crypto on my bank account?
No, not crypto. No, we're not dabbling into the crypto space, just yet. But it's an opportunity for us to look at in the future. I know that a lot of banks are currently in the crypto space, but I think for most banks right now, it's definitely still fragile, and there's a lot more to be looked into, especially from a regulatory standpoint as well.
I'm glad you. Dion, I'm glad you brought that up, because the crypto thing is certainly, I haven't done my foray into that. Yeah, well, actually, I should say that I did do a foray into that, and I got burned like I was, next to the sun.
Oh,
okay.
No.
Okay. And I'm like, you're like, I'm not brown enough. I'm like, please. It was a horrible experience. And it was, really kind of turned me off to crypto.
Gotcha.
It was just really, it was early on. When I say early on, it's probably about 3 years ago or so.
Okay.
It wasn't, look, any money that you lose, it's all relative.
Exactly.
If you lost it and you didn't need to lose it, it was a lot of money.
Exactly. It's all subjective, right? Some people are putting, every dollar they have into it. So, it's all relative.
Because of the non-regulatory, the reason why I'm bringing it up is because of this non-regulatory, thing that you mentioned. And what happened was, the account got hacked and it was, gone.
Right.
And then, of course, I called the platform. Right. I called the platform because I didn't have a wallet at that time. I was getting into it. Right. And they were offering, the trading and the security and all that stuff. And they're like, well, yeah, we see it, but
there's nothing we can do.
There's nothing we can do. I'm like, wow, man. Yeah. I'm like, what the hell? Okay. If this were a bank, right? I mean, because it's happened to me with banks. You call a bank up, you say this is a situation, or my credit card or whatever. They're like, okay, Mr. Nichols, we'll put the money back and we'll deal with it on the other end.
Right. Exactly.
And my naive Victor was like, you mean I'm just out of luck? Oh, yeah, you're out of luck.
But you know what? Sometimes, we do see some of that, not the same scenario, but we do see some of that experience with some of the online banks, because they don't have a brick and mortar. They don't have a branch you can walk into. They're online, where if you call with a problem, you're calling that 1-800 number. You're calling that service line. You're waiting 45 minutes to sometimes 2 hours to get a real life person on the phone. And that's when I talk to people and they say, well, Chris, I'm getting this rate from XYZ Bank online. And I'm like, that's great. But if you have a problem, who are you going to call? Like, you're going to wait on the phone for 2 hours to pull your money out. And by the way, they're going to charge you a fee to cut you a check or send the wire on your way out. So I get it when you see that flashy rate, but sometimes that doesn't always mean better, right? Because there's a relationship that you want to have, not just, that fully online service.
And thank you for saying that, because that little snippet's going to go viral. I'm telling you, because that is very important to the small businesses who are getting out there, because everybody wants, I want the best deal. I want the cheapest thing. I want, but they're playing a short game. Yes. When the banks and the institutions are playing a long game.
Absolutely.
And if you don't get that, you're going to be like, hey, how come this didn't work out for me? Because
correct,
you weren't paying attention.
Yeah, and that's why even with the big banks, I tell people all the time, bigger doesn't always mean better.
Oh,
right?
God.
So you have to look at what's the right situation for you, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you can be just a number, right, at some of the big banks, right? Think about it. Bankers at some of the larger institutions, they have 300, 400, 500, 600 clients in their book of business, right? Like, they're not reaching out to you unless you have a certain dollar amount, because they're starting at the top, rightfully so.
It's mathematically impossible.
You get lost in the sauce. And then what happens is, when you come in with a problem or you come in with a question, the bankers don't know you. You're calling, you don't even know who your banker is. And it's just, you feel very disconnected. You feel disconnected. So I think that's one of the difference too of dealing with a community bank where we know you, right? So you don't have to call that 1-800 number. You call your banker directly.
Yeah, and when you call a number, they usually put you through this chatbot, like the bot system, where like, if you have this problem, click 5.
Exactly. Right.
And you sit on the phone, just tapping on the numbers and trying to get
zero into a real person.
Yeah, and then you're like, I don't have my question in there. Like, what should I do next?
Yeah, right. Now what? Right now what?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's funny.
Well,
so
I know we're probably getting to the end of this, but I want to give you Chris, a little commercial that you wouldn't have even known about. So the other day, probably a couple of days ago, I was I go to Starbucks over in Maplewood, as I do quite often, and I realized when I was getting to my car, I'm like, because I'm getting ready to go away, I'm like, oh my God, I got to get some cash. Well, the BCB is right there.
Yep.
So I'm like, oh, my bank's right here. Let me walk to the BCB. Bro, there were 2 women in there and 3 women in there. You know, the person who was a teller, and then 2 young ladies said, I had so much fun with these women. We talked and we talked about community. We laughed. We talked about all kinds of different things. And I'm like, I walked out of that bank and I said, there's not a snowball's chance. And you know what? That I would have had that experience in Chase or Wachovia or whatever, because you got all these people standing in line. You got people, what's your number? You know, oh, did you call for an appointment?
Exactly right.
Appointment to visit my money? Come on.
That's right. Make an appointment. Go online. They're waiting. They're waiting in the lobby with the iPad saying, "Okay, Mr. Nichols, we don't have you on the list here.
We don't have you on the list. We're sorry. We're sorry we can't help you today. Okay, we'll need you to come back." Right? I'm like,
exactly.
Crack. Of course, I'm not.
Right. And that's the difference, right? We're taking the time to have that conversation, because it's not about just banking in that moment. It's about learning who's Victor, right? Yep. Right. Who's Vic Nichols, right? But who's important to you? What's important to you? How's your day going, man? Hey, what's your plans for the summer? You know, what's next for business, right? How are things going? And that's how you start to build that connectivity, and you earn that trust, and you build that rapport, right? And I think
I want to know that your people are doing the right thing. I really wonderful interaction. It was very entertaining. It made me feel like they were interested in my business. They were interested, you know, we talked about the, you know, community and whatever, and it just was a great experience. It wasn't transactional in nature.
And I'm pleased to hear that, because that's what we strive to be. That's what we're all about. So if we're delivering that service, that means that what we stand for is really resonating with our teams and with our branches. And that's the message that we want to, you know, push forward.
You're doing a good job. You're doing a good job.
Do you hire people with specific personalities to have that like vibe in the branch?
Well, yeah, I think that, you know, to be in banking, especially to be customer facing, you have to be, you know, a people person. You have to, you know, enjoy somewhat talking to people and dealing with people. But definitely that's things that we look for, because we know that if you're someone that we enjoy working with, you'll definitely be someone that the community enjoys to see on a consistent basis, and you'll enjoy that human interaction as well. So I think it definitely isn't by happenstance, to say the least.
Yeah.
One last banking question for you and my banking question is about, are you also looking to do work with nonprofits?
Absolutely. And that's definitely, I work with nonprofits every single day. We actually have a pay it forward program where if a nonprofit signs up and then we give them a code where if they take back to their organization and they disseminate that code and people sign up bank accounts, we'll take an average balance of those people who sign up, and based on a percentage, we'll actually donate regular checks to said organization, right? And that's aside from sponsorship opportunities and other partnership opportunities that we'll do. So I work with nonprofits every single day. And to that point, Vic, I'll say another thing. One of the things that I see some of the nonprofits that are doing well, they have a deck, right? They have a deck where they'll say, hey, you know, for X amount of money for partnership opportunities, here's what you're going to get. You're going to get 10 tickets to our gala. You're going to get your logo on our website. You're going to get, you know, tickets to our golf outing. You're going to get this. And for me as a banker, I can present that one round number back to my bank to say, hey, look, for X amount of money, this is what we're going to get in return, right? And now we're starting to build that partnership versus saying, hey, Chris, can you give us $50 for this event? Can you give us $500 for this? Can you give us $2,500 for our expo? Can you do this? That's transactional, and we feel that, right? And it's not just us, all the banks feel that. So when we're able to have that partnership, send us a deck, send us everything that's included for this one price, because now I can go back to my accounts payable team and I'm running that number through the system one time versus going to the back office 10 times during the year. They're like, Chris, this organization again?
And that's you just actually gave a piece of gold bullion. Okay,
yes.
To nonprofit organizations and to for-profit organizations as well,
right?
Because they may have different things. I mean, you know, I do.
Of course, yeah.
But if I bundle it and say, okay, Chris, here's the menu.
Yes.
Here's the gig. Okay. You're like, I like this, and this. Okay. That's what it's going to be for the year. We're done.
That's it.
Okay.
Right. And even some of the chambers are even adopting some of that thinking with the tiers, because that's what the partnership starts to begin. It's no longer transactional. And I'll say this too. Everything that's happening at the federal level with federal funding and at the state level with state funding, these organizations, whether you're for profit or not, are turning to the private sector. They're turning to banks and saying, we need your help. But the banks are also saying, okay, let's partner. We don't want to just be transactional. Give us a menu and we can build a relationship.
Yep. I love it.
That way it's a win-win.
I love it. I love it.
What is what is the future of BCB Bank?
Absolutely.
In, let's say 5-10 years.
5 to 10 years, I would say that there's definitely an emergence with AI and a lot of online banks and online systems, and I would say that those functionalities are essential to day-to-day business. But our value add has always been priority service, local decision making, and community investment, right? And I think that those three things are not going out of style anytime soon, and those three things can't be replaced by AI, right? So I think that if you take, and especially if you take a look at what's going on with some of the larger banks where they're continuing to consolidate and all these mergers and acquisitions, they're actually pulling away from small businesses. They're focusing more on corporate banking and private banking, and that's fine. But that's another way where community banks are going to be positioned more as a strategic partner, and people are going to be running to community banks for that support, for that partnership, because they know that they're not going to get that from some of the bigger institutions out there.
Yeah, they basically have commoditized banking when you have that type of an attitude,
right?
And building that long-term relationship with somebody when they're getting started or in the middle of their journey, they're going to stay.
Yes.
I mean, unless you go out of business, they're going to stay.
Okay. We're not going anywhere.
Right? We're going to stay.
So Vic, what is one thing that you're going to take from this conversation?
I would say one big thing is that I'm really going to focus more, especially as I move forward. I mean, I told you, Christian, that I have another venture. I'm always having ventures, but something that's starting out where you were talking about the international stuff and the things like that. That's going to be a business that's going to be international, European and here. And I really want to get deeper into talking about that. So the thing I would take away from this is that truly, to coin a phrase, because that's the topic of this conversation, exploring more of the holistic banking experience,
right?
And talking about all of the things, because now you're also going to talk about, credit card processing, and you're going to talk about, right? You're going to talk about transactions, and it could get, from my lips to God's ears, it could get big, and we want to know that we have somebody who's in our corner.
Exactly.
And for me, it was a very big surprise that a bank can be your strategic partner and help you with all of those things. So you kind of get a mentor, right? Yes. Or someone who you can rely on. That's very big, especially for a woman, or for anybody who's just starting. That's amazing.
Definitely. You definitely have that partner, and you have that guide, right? And the thing is, like I said, you have that partner that's with you every step of the way, and it's in that same vein as your accountant or your attorney. They're part of that leadership Rolodex, if you will, that's with you to help guide and shape your business.
So, Chris, how can people reach out to you?
Yeah, people can definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. It's my name, Christian J. Duncan. Also, my email is cduncan@bcb.bank, and that's the easiest way to connect with me.
All right.
Great. Well, thank you everyone for listening to us. Thank you, Chris, for coming, because you made this conversation so interesting and so valuable. And I'm sure we'll see you a few more times in this virtual room, and maybe one time.
Definitely see my face again.
Talk about different topics, different, really dig into different verticals of banking, whether it's
absolutely.
So, and Vic, thank you so much for providing this space for us. And I'll see you guys next time.
Thanks so much, everybody watching. Thanks, Vic. Thanks, Dee. I appreciate the opportunity and look forward to seeing you both soon.
Yep, I'll be seeing you soon.
All righty.